Welcome to Spotlight New England. I'm one of your hosts, Audrey McClelland.
And I'm Ashley Erling. And summer has really officially
It is
arrived
officially
now.
here.
We've
been saying it all for the last few weeks.
All the kids are out of school.
Yes.
It's hot. It's full on.
It is full on.
It is full on.
And if you are obviously a New Englander, you know that today it is a heat wave. And it is truly on. Summer's here.
But I mean, parents must be looking for ways to occupy their kids during the summertime now that it's like officially summer, like we're out, we're in it.
Absolutely. And this is what I love about really our first guest is Dina Davis, who we love. We've had her here from Arts Alive. She's one of the co-founders, and it's an organization that really reaches out. You know, my daughter has been part of the Arts Alive really program experiences for quite a while now, but she does the summer camp there. And Dina sat down with us to really talk about why exposing children to the arts at such a young age is such an incredible thing to do. So I just wanted to share a little bit of an interview that we did with Dina. We love her. So take a peek. What do you think truly it is about the arts and allowing children to come alive and to feel like they've found their place in this incredible space that is arts?
Well, because the arts are all about human connection. And I think, we live in a world that is so digital and stimulations coming out of screens and machines, and I think giving children the opportunity that they can actually use their own self-expression and connect with others in that way and tell stories together, whether that be through music or through dance or through theater. It's exciting and it's alive and it's energizing, and it's so important in the world that we're living in right now, I think.
And tell me this, because I know that you've obviously been in the world of theater for years, but what does it feel like to see, a child come in? You can see them, maybe they're a little apprehensive when maybe they first come, and then you truly see them blossom. Like, what does that feel like? Is that magic ever lost on you?
No, it's never lost on me. And I think that's one of the reasons that, at Arts Alive, our mission is to introduce children to theater at a really young age, so that before they have kind of decided, well, this is where I fit in, and kind of putting those restrictions on themselves. So I think giving them opportunities to discover their own unique voice and then have that celebrated and feel like, wow, what makes me different is actually what makes me really cool. And there's nothing greater than the success stories we have of those kids who do come in and they're so shy and timid and maybe haven't fit in anywhere, and then all of a sudden they realize, I'm really good at this.
Yes.
And then they're surrounded by people that also, give them that feedback, and then suddenly they're part of something they're doing with other people, and it's magic and it's important.
I love that. And tell me this, did you ever dream that Arts Alive would be this unbelievable success? Or did you always know that it would be?
I don't know that I ever really thought about it that way. I mean, like when I first moved to Rhode Island, I had lived in the UK for 15 years, and theater is such a part of the culture over there. So when I came back here, having been out of the States for so many years, it was like, what's happened? There's like no theater in elementary schools at all. There's only an after-school program in the middle school. So I was given the opportunity to bring a school play back to the Nayett School in Barrington, and literally like 130 kids signed up to take part in that. And it was all volunteer work back then, but it just showed that, wow, there's a real interest in this. And then all the other schools in town started coming and asking, could we bring it to their schools? And now we're in the Bristol, Warren, and Barrington schools. And I mean, if it was up to me, this would spread across the whole country, because I feel like it's that important. So I don't know if I predicted that, but I couldn't be happier.
I love it. You are doing amazing work, and it really is. It's magic. So thank you for everything that you do.
Thank you.
I mean, she really loves bringing the arts to children. And like she said, not everybody, and listen, this is from a sports mom for my 4 kids. My daughter isn't like a sports kid.
Yeah.
And like she said, there needs to be a place for everybody.
Absolutely.
And she's, and some kids, they find the arts and they come alive.
Well, also sports programs, I think, can be really intimidating, but also I hate that children will get cut from sports.
Yeah.
So something like this, there's so many opportunities for people. It's so inclusive. I always did drama and things like that growing up, and I loved it. I, to this day, will tell people I really
could
think
see you
that,
as an actress.
I think it helps you kind of just be comfortable in front of people and talking to people and just being who you are. So I love that they're doing that within the community, and especially during the summertime when you're trying to
kids in.
find something to do with everybody.
I was on March 1st at midnight on the computer to make sure she got into those summer camps. So thanks, Dina, for talking with us. She's an incredible woman, and we have another incredible woman coming up next. So stick around on Spotlight New England. Welcome back to Spotlight New England. So our next guest, Lisa Raiola, is an incredible woman. She's the founder and president of Hope in Maine. She's somebody who's near and dear to my heart because my husband's launched his business at Hope in Maine, one of the first incubators, actually the first incubator.
It's the first one.
And Lisa is just a woman that has just helped launch so many businesses, and you've changed small businesses, the face of it in Rhode Island. So thanks so much for being here, Lisa, to talk with Ashley and I.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, we've been such an admirer of yours for so many years, and we were joking right before we came on about when you started, how long ago it was, and you said it's dog years now because there's so much going on.
It is.
But if we could go back a little bit, tell us a little bit about what even made you think to kind of start this, because I mean, it's the first of its kind that I'm aware of, at least around here for sure.
It is, and that's why I started it, is because I was going to start a food business. And this was close to 15 years ago. I was thinking about a food business. I was recovering from an illness, and I wanted to bring food to people like me who would need, special prepared foods if you were ill and recovering from an illness, or you just had a baby, let's say. And I was amazed that people could send me flowers that were from all over the country, but that was all the same, but not food. I'm like, I don't need flowers. I need food.
Wow.
So I was going to start this business, and I was looking for maybe 1,500 square feet. This is around 2009, to build a commercial kitchen because I knew that's what you needed. And, there wasn't one. I couldn't find one. And I went into the town hall in Warren because I saw a building that I thought was in foreclosure. And I said, could you tell me more about this little building? It was right where Hope Street in Bristol turns into Main Street in Warren. So there's a little spoiler alert. And she said, well, we don't know anything about that building, but we have a public building for sale. Maybe you're interested. It's like, sure, show me this building. So she brought me to an 18,000 square foot shuttered elementary school, the Main Street School. It had been closed for 10 years. And I walked in and I laughed. I thought, what would I ever do with 18,000 square feet? And I thought, I bet there's a lot of people like me who don't know how to start a food business, have no place to go, don't have the money, can't get a bank loan, high failure rates. Maybe I could build kitchens and I could do something like a tech incubator in California, but with food.
Wow.
And I went home that night and I said to my husband, you won't believe what I saw today that I might buy. And he's like, what, a pair of shoes?
He's like, shoes, a purse, what?
No, I said, no, I saw an elementary school. And he said, what would you do with an elementary school? I said, well, I think I would put a food incubator there. And he said, Lisa, what is that? And I said, I don't know. I've never heard of one.
My God.
And I literally had not heard of one. And we Googled it, and there were maybe 50 of them around the country at that time, 2009, and none in Rhode Island. I said, this is such a good idea for Rhode Island. It's, we're a hospitality state, we're a food state, we have Johnson and Wales. I said, and it happened to be during the Great Recession, which is a time when people start businesses.
Yeah.
That's something they turn to in a recession. And, now, 11 years later, we're 500 businesses, have launched at Hope in Maine.
And I have to say, Lisa is, as Lisa is, she's being super humble because
it's such a visionary thing to do.
It really is.
Just to even bet on yourself, I guess, and think I know it's a good idea, but now you have to do it.
Now you have to put it together, because I have to say, this is what I was reading about you beforehand, because I knew you graduated from Brown, because we're both alum from there, but she has a degree in biomedical ethics. Okay, let's just let this all sink in for a second. Okay,
sure I know what
she has her. I had to Google that too. She has a Master of Public Health degree from Boston University. Okay, and then on top of that, you went into healthcare, and not as a physician, but you ran the ethics program for Harvard Pilgrim Health. I mean, Lisa, and then you actually went to Brown, and you were a vice president and taught medical ethics at Brown. This is your life before this new life. You really were. I mean, should I say this? You had 2 different lives, because this new life with Hope in Maine must be very different than your past.
It is. But it's different, and it's the same for me. I've always wondered, how did I end up doing this?
Yeah.
And I think it's because, when you're in a system, and because I was supposed to be a physician, that's what I studied to do.
Study?
And then I realized, like, this is not a good system. I'm going into practice in what is not a good system. And I really became more interested in changing the system. And I feel the same way about the food system. You know, I could have started my own food business. Instead, I started a business to help food businesses that we're both looking at the economic mobility of the individual business, but also the economic development through a whole new, you know, food economy model for not just Rhode Island, but maybe for New England and the country.
Yeah.
Right. So Rhode Island signed on to a pledge to produce and consume 50% of all of our food by 2060 from New England.
From New England.
The New England
Okay.
states signed on to this. That means 30% by 2030. How will you do that in a place that, you know, right now we're importing, you know, close to 90% of all of our food from out of state? It requires all new models.
Yeah.
So Hope and Main is not only a dream factory for the individual businesses, but we're really trying to make change in the food system. So if you think about it, I was trying to change the healthcare system. That's what public health is about. And now I'm hoping to make a little dent in the food system.
I think you're making a huge dent, and we've been lucky enough, as Ashley knows, to have a lot of your dream maker. You're a dream maker, but you have all these women that come in and men that have actually cooked in our kitchen, and they all say the same thing, because people don't know how much it really does cost, or how difficult it is to find
what
commercial
goes into
kitchen
it.
space, to learn about marketing, to learn about PR. Everybody can have a dream, but people don't realize the nuts and the bolts of that dream sometimes. And at Hope and Main, you give them the tools and resources to then go forward and create, which is unbelievable.
And so what I like to say is that in 1915, when the school was built, that Hope and Main is located in, it's in the old Main Street School. 100 years ago, if I had used the phrase local food, you would have looked at me and said, that makes no sense. There is no other kind, because our food couldn't come from far away. Well, 100 years later, we have a whole different food system, and big food has such an advantage. Big food and big agriculture, right, which New England is not known for, has such a huge advantage. That's why little companies can't break in. So everyone faces barriers, but particularly women, particularly you know, minoritized founders in the food space. They don't have the networks. They don't have the, you know, everyone's at a disadvantage.
Yeah.
So we're trying to build a system that really creates a whole new way of starting this platform, right? That enables people to start businesses. You know, think of us as like the Uber of food businesses. You know, I could drive a car. I could have a business. I can make condiments. I could have a business, right?
Right, absolutely.
And that's the difference, is that we wanted to build this platform that I think other states could use, other parts of the country could use, to give what is small a big voice, to give what is small a level playing field where they can compete with the bigger businesses out there.
So is it going the way that you thought it would go, or has it taken on a life of its own? I mean, I know it's that you have helped so many local people start their food businesses. Some have gone on and graduated from you because they're so successful. More people are coming up. We hear about it all the time that people are working through Hope and Main. Was this the vision? Has it evolved? How has it all come together for you?
So that's a good question, and I like to say that we're only ever one lesson plan ahead of the class. You know, I can't really say that in 2009 I had this vision. I really wanted to do is stay close to the people that we're serving and understand what do they need. And I don't always know that. I certainly didn't know in 2009. So, you know, you try to ask good questions and understand, what do those companies need? What they need is an opportunity to de-risk without mortgaging their house, you know, without putting everything at risk. So we say at Hope and Main, either go fast or fail fast. Either one should cost you a lot of money. We've had a 45% success rate of the businesses that have come through Hope and Main, compared to maybe an 8% success rate if you were a free-range business out in the wild. They mostly fail. And I think it's because we're creating these opportunities to try something. If it doesn't work, you're only paying by the hour. So you're paying a little at a time for only the infrastructure that you need. And we're providing all the technical and business assistance that you need along the way. We're connecting you to markets. We're connecting you to the roadshow. That's connections to a market.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that people, eaters out there, can know what you're doing, right? So you have less of a chance of failing. You really are reducing the risk. So when I think of the vision, I think of, my mother would say that God gave you one of these and two of these for a reason. You need to do twice as much of this. So,
I like that.
Really listen to what people need, and you will know where to go with this business.
Yeah, and I love it too because I guess it was last spring the Samuel Adams, when you guys did that.
Yeah.
They do it was like a contest,
the
Pitch
contest.
competition. Yeah.
And what I loved about it is that everybody that came up, obviously it goes through Hope and Maine, but the great thing is that the solid feedback that everybody was given. I mean, we're friends with Getty, who comes on here, the empanada assassin. We love her.
Yeah.
And like she said after her experience in that, she goes, it was so good because it allowed me to look at my business. Maybe some people wanted to change even the font on their label.
Right.
Something as simple as that,
Yeah.
because you get married to your business.
Yeah.
Sometimes you see it too close. And when you
Right.
take a step back, but what I love about what you guys do is that when you're giving feedback, you're giving help, you're giving resources, it's done with love.
Yes.
It's done with wanting success for them.
Exactly.
Nothing is done in any other way than wanting to see like this bird fly and
Exactly.
soar.
And I say, hey, if I'm smiling with spinach in my teeth, please tell me. That is kind. Please give me that feedback. So
Audrey says that too.
yeah,
I do. Please be a friend. Please be a friend.
Right. So that is, that's kindness, is to give that kind of feedback and to bring the people in that, our members will listen to. In fact, one of the other pitchers there was Savannah Campbell, who has gone on to win 2 pitch competitions since then. Wow. Right? Like 2 $10,000.
Unbelievable.
And one of them was a national competition for Black women in the food business.
Unbelievable.
She's amazing, right? And she took that feedback and she turned that into gold.
Yeah.
So, and she's gone viral on social media, because she really has been able to listen to the feedback. So imagine a whole community of people that love what you do, that just want you to be successful. Where else are you going to find
It's true.
that?
You built the community.
Right.
You really have. It's unbelievable.
Is there a moment or a person that's come through or a story that has made you kind of just be like, wow, like this is impactful.
There are so
like,
many
or make
stories.
you kind of like step back and be like, wow.
Yeah.
Like, this is.
I mean, Feast and Faddle's got to be one of them.
Feast and Faddle, we just had an event recently, and Nick spoke, and she talked about, being in the kitchen with Maggie. It was just the two of them. I remember we got them a $4,000 grant for their very first van. But those women were driven. They knew what they wanted to do. And they were really far ahead of their time with the whole subscription idea and the family style meals. Now they have 150 vans on the road. They have 300 employees. They're a multi-million-dollar company. Wow. They've acquired other companies.
Right.
Just think how many, lives have been changed, right? When, we need to create jobs, and so one of the ways we create jobs, it's the local food system isn't built on the backs of McDonald's and Applebee's and all of it. It's built on the backs of our local businesses, right? And those founders that are hiring our neighbors. And manufacturing has a multiplier effect, and for every one food job you create 2.3 indirect jobs. The person driving the truck to bring the ingredients to you, the graphic designer, the person making the packaging, the people work at the grocery store, right? It's a virtuous cycle of job creation and economic development.
Yeah.
So really that's what Hope and Maine is about. And that's why every business in some ways is impactful, because it's changing the local food landscape for the better.
It really is. I mean, it's incredible. And, before we let you go, let me ask you this. Truly, even looking forward, how do you balance? Because you're a mom, you're a wife, you're a business owner. Is there a balance to it? How do you do it all?
So I always say that I will look at my work-life balance, at the end of my life. And,
I'm going to steal that.
Really, because I don't look at it every day at 5 o'clock,
right.
because there are some days, and you both know, there are some days where, I left it all on the floor at work, and I had to. And I think it makes me a better wife, mother, because I feel like I'm a better person. I did what the priority was for today.
Yeah.
So I just can't look at it every day at 5 o'clock.
No.
But, call me in 20 or 30 years if I'm still kicking around and say, hey, how was that? Because,
hopefully retired and traveling or enjoying the beach or something.
Right, somewhere.
Yeah.
Oh, Lisa, thank you so much for coming on and talking with us. You truly are just an incredible woman, and what you're doing and supporting really and creating this community and changing the landscape here in Rhode Island is just incredible.
Thank you. And thank you for uplifting women. This is so important, and it's so important for us to hear other women's stories because that's, gives us hope.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate you saying that. And stick around because we have more with Spotlight New England.
Welcome back to Spotlight New England. Of course, if you think of summer here, especially in Rhode Island, you probably think about summer nights at McCoy Stadium and baseball, which sadly is no longer there. But recently, they did find a couple of time capsules.
Yeah, this was very cool.
That were there. And of course, anything McCoy is, lore now here at this point.
True.
So people were excited to find out what was in them. So let's take a look.
Been wondering
what's in the time capsule, right?
And people got their answer. The reveal happening on the grounds of the former McCoy Stadium, where 2 time capsules were found during demolition.
It breaks my heart to walk in there without the stadium.
A crowd rushed to get a glimpse. Here's memorabilia from back in 1981 when the longest professional baseball game was played at McCoy Stadium. Here's what was inside: a Paw Sox hat, signed baseball, and score sheet. Noah White witnessed that historic day and helped his dad bury this time capsule.
Something my dad designed. Unfortunately, he didn't get a chance to see it. And to see that the artifacts came out looking like the day they were put in, I think it was a testament to his design.
The other capsule was buried when the stadium was built.
I don't think that they really knew what was going to go on with this thing.
It contained a letter to prosperity from the special committee created for the Pawtucket Stadium, including a signature from former Mayor Thomas McCoy.
McCoy Stadium was, for us, a getaway place.
The group reminiscing on memories made here.
Jeremy Hazelbaker, I actually played catch with him, which was one of my favorite moments I've ever had.
Posted up our picture on the big screen, came over and sang, and helped us celebrate our anniversary.
After finding treasures from the past, many are looking towards the future.
We'll have to wait and see what happens next here, with the new schools here, and of course, more memories will basically live on.
That's so cool.
It is cool. Bittersweet for people because McCoy Stadium was so beloved, and I didn't grow up here, so I don't have, childhood memories of it. But even in the time that I've lived here as an adult, I would enjoy going to a game, and so many, major players came up through the Paw Sox and went on to the Red Sox, and you could watch some of the Red Sox players who came down.
Oh, it was great
to play there. So I know that people are missing it, but nice that everyone has those memories and they're kind of memorialized through things like that.
No, it was really cool. And I was watching the segment this morning on the early, when I was up early in the morning. Yeah. And I actually thought to myself, what a great idea to do with your own family. Yeah. Like to really take something, I was even thinking this morning too, I'm like, even though you took your modern day cell phone, which to us is still like so incredible, 20 years from now, when my grandkids maybe take out a time capsule, it'd be, who would have thought when we were kids, you weren't printing out photos all the time at home. It's just all these different things, but that did inspire me, if it could, to think about what kind of things would I want to put in a time capsule.
I don't know what I would put in.
Right?
Did you think of what you would put in it?
Well, I definitely thought like a picture of our family now. Absolutely. Like maybe everyone write down where they are at this exact moment in time. Like what their biggest dream would be. Like I love when I look back and my mom has found stuff like what I wanted to be when I was older someday.
As opposed to just like memorabilia.
I'm a big softie when it comes to that stuff.
You are. You're good like that though. You always
I love capturing memories and like having them to look back at. But I thought that was inspiring to look at and say, wow, you could really bring that into your own life.
Right. It's always nice to take a moment to kind of think about where you are and think about where you're going to go.
Where you're going to go.
Even I'm sure for you thinking back to you with your kids when they were little.
Absolutely.
A moment in time.
A moment. It's a moment, Ashley. It's a moment.
Now we're sad.
I love it. Well, as always, thanks for joining us on Spotlight New England, and make sure you tune in tomorrow. We have another great show.